Making rice is measure, rinse, add water, simmer, steam, and less than a half an hour later, you're done. And yet so often, no matter if you're an amateur in the kitchen or consider yourself pretty accomplished, the final result is a letdown. Sometimes the grains turn to mush. Sometimes they're hard in the middle. And all too often they're stuck to the bottom of the pot. In my house, the ultimate, let it soak overnight, culprit. Never a fun thing to wake up to. Enter rice cookers, which, for many, save the day. They're basically a targeted type of electric cooker, similar to a pressure cooker or slow cooker, only they excel at making plump, perfectly cooked rice. Number 5 on the CRPP1009 SB Pressure Rice Cooker. Rice cooker. I bought a cuckoo my aunts use, says Joanne Lee Molinaro, better known as the Korean vegan. When you go to a Korean grocery store, you see a bunch of cuckoos all over the place. Molinaro uses hers. A slightly older but similar model to the one listed, primarily for brown rice as well as mixed rice, the setting for which she uses every time she adds soybeans, farro, pearled barley, and even chestnuts and sweet potatoes. For food writer Justine Lee, who has the more recent model, the multi-cook setting is where it stuns. Multi-cook essentially turns the appliance into a pressure cooker and allows you to adjust the time and heat level. Both are as easy as dialing the knob to set, says Lee. It's how I steam a bunch of Korean sweet potatoes right before road trips and quell my bean hankerings come summertime. Number 4 on the LuiNpn WC10 XB Rice Cooker. This is the previous Zojirushi model that so many experts enthusiastically recommended. It is, notably, the most expensive on the list, but it's also clearly a favorite, a worth it investment if you eat enough rice. Of course, it has that same standout technology as the more affordable model. The main difference is the myriad of settings, and in particular, one that everyone whom I talked to honed in on. This model I bought specifically because it has a kanji mode, says food writer and editor Elise Whitney. The one I had previously for many years only had Japanese porridge, which is thinner. So yes, I bought this for a button, but it literally makes perfect kanji. Recipe developer and cookbook author Betty Liu also makes a lot of kanji in hers, calling it convenient, fast, and incredibly reliable. And finally, TikTok recipe creator Vivian Aronson uses that feature too, particularly for breakfast. I can set it at night and have kanji ready in the morning, she says. Number 3 on the Panasonic SRDF101 Rice Cooker. The Panasonic, the one that food photographer Neil Santos has also used for a decade, both personally and at his Philly-based Filipino pop-up, Lalo, which unfortunately closed due to the pandemic. I'm not a high-tech kind of person, and this only has a few settings. That's what I grew up with in a Filipino household, he says. It can be on all the time and stay warm. It has a little basket that can steam veggies over the rice. Sometimes I'll use it for other dishes as well. The Philippines has a lot of rice desserts, like suman, which is sticky rice wrapped in banana leaf. I put the suman in there and let it stay warm. That's how we used it at the restaurant. We were in a food hall, so everything was small, and this was an efficient way to do things. Number 2 on the ARC914 SBD Digital Rice Cooker. For a particularly gets the job done, Justin Lee, the owner-chef of New York City's Fat Choi, turns to his Aroma rice cooker. For home use, I think a cheap and simple one is really all you need, he says. In fact, Aroma makes an even cheaper and simpler one with only 2 buttons, if that sounds intriguing to you. But this one, still decidedly affordable and with a handful more settings, is what Lee has. It's just easier than using a pot. Or at least you don't have to watch it as much. It gets the job done totally fine, he notes. And sure, there's something about the way the Zojirushi is constructed that makes it superior. But at the end of the day, we're not making sushi rice. This is just us cooking rice at home so we can feed ourselves and our family. For that, he maintains it's perfect. Number 1 on the Litty NTS C10 Rice Cooker. In my reporting, came up more than any other brand. It has a fancier model with even more settings that multiple experts mentioned. You can read about that one further down the list, but this one, especially given that it's less than half the price of the other, makes for an all-around great buy. Food writer and recipe developer Kira Wright Ruiz had to leave hers behind when she recently moved to Hawaii. She told me it's the thing she misses the most. I'm sure people have said this before, but it really is the Lamborghini of rice cookers. She says, the standout reason is what Zojirushi calls fuzzy technology, or a built-in microcomputer that can sense how your rice is cooking and adjust the time and temperature so that, even if you add too little or too much water, it will self-correct. Says Wright Ruiz, you get a consistent texture with a margin of error.